Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Monday, December the 15th. Back here in Nashville, Tennessee. Good to be back home. Maybe not a good result for the Titans on Sunday, but something good that I think we're learning about them is that they're learning how to be the kind of physical football team that they think they've been all season long. Now they're actually executing at a rate that's maybe not successful enough to result in outright wins, but they're at least giving themselves a chance. They're at least finding ways to become a more balanced offense as they try to finish out this year as strong as humanly possible. You got 3 games left for Tennessee, the Chiefs and Saints at home before you go to Jacksonville to wrap up the regular season. Again, that Jags win is the last opportunity for them to have a divisional win in the season. They could finish this season as the first Titans era team to not have a divisional win if they are not able to go down to Jacksonville and cause them some problems at the end of their regular season, as they're clearly and obviously trying to make a postseason push. But there is something that looks better around Cam Ward, and that is going to give Cam Ward more of a chance to succeed. And that's something that was pointed out to us by Ben Jones today, the former Titans center, and why that is ultimately going to be a good thing for Cam Ward moving forward, because there will be some returning pieces and parts. Will be a largely different roster in 2026, but we do understand that the offensive line, for all intents and purposes, Dan Moore, Peter Skoronski, J.C. Latham, we'll see what happens with Lloyd Cushenberry, but 3 of the 5 guys are going to be starters as long as they're healthy in 2026. And so the progress that they're making in the run game is something that's worth or scrutinizing here. Maybe not hyper scrutinizing, but at least taking a closer look at as to why they're having that kind of success, or why they're having more success than they were previously. Share the show around. We'll do Who You Got, Dolphins and Steelers in Pittsburgh tonight. We'll pick between those 2 teams, and Bert will wrap things up with In Case You Missed It. Share the broadcast around wherever you are spending your precious and valuable time with us. We do so appreciate you guys stopping by here on Sundays, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays to hang out with me and Robert. But we always do love when you share the broadcast around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. I'll do it with you right now. Share it. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show, bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Facebook Live, it's real easy. You can share not a public in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, rather left-hand corner of your screen, and you can invite your Titans fan friends to come hang out with us. Text the link to a friend, like the video on YouTube and on Twitch. Subscribe to the channel while you're there, and we'll go ahead and get this thing up and rolling while more of you guys trickle on in here. And we'll talk about a place where the Titans are giving Cam Ward more opportunities to have success, even if it's not necessarily about Cam Ward specifically. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the TDOT Studios, where the Tennessee Department of Transportation reminds you that nobody trashes Tennessee. Be a part of the solution to end littering at nobodytrashestn.com. By Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, online at tworiversford.com. Quality American-made Ford vehicles, award-winning customer service is what they offer. Two Rivers Ford for more details. TrueMav Fitness for the best workout in Middle Tennessee. You want to keep your fitness routine going. You want to start your new fitness routine if you've not necessarily had one before. The holiday season is a great time to start, a great time to make sure that you're at least trying to maintain your fitness as you work your way through all the delightful food and beverage that is awaiting you here in just a couple of weeks, really all holiday season long, between office parties and family get-togethers and the actual Christmas and Thanksgiving. All of it, TrueMav Fitness will help you maintain your fitness during the most difficult times of year and then get you ready for your New Year's resolution. Simon Says Nashville is where you go for the best clothing spot, men's clothing spot in Middle Tennessee. SimonSaysNashville.com. Wedgwood Houston is where you find them. Great deals on all manner of great items for you to wear to all of those different events and functions that you have to be a part of during the holiday season. SimonSaysNashville.com for more details. Okay, so I came away from yesterday's game. Obviously, this is the first time we've talked on primetime. Maybe you guys listened to the radio show today. Maybe you did. I was in San Francisco yesterday, covered the game, as is the custom. And it wasn't a bad Titans performance per se. I get caught up in the Cam Ward of it all, because that's the thing that most people care about, are interested about on a week-by-week basis. Of course, we understand why that's obvious. The only thing that matters is, I mean, really the only thing that matters in a season that's lost is his continued growth, development, and his health, ultimately. And he was kept clean yesterday, which is the first time really all year. He was pressured, I think a total of 5 times. He was only hit 3 times in this game, and that's as few times as he's been under duress all season long. And so what I wanted in that situation is I wanted to see a good Cam Ward performance, because I've struggled with this. You guys can chime in if you feel differently in the comment section. I know that I'm a tougher critic than a lot of people tend to be. And I think there's reasons for that. One, if you're a Titans fan, you want to constantly try to manifest positivity around him. I totally understand that. Don't fault you for that. That's not really my job, though. And, my job is also to give fair criticism of him. And sometimes I think I go back and forth on that, because I get his circumstance. I really do. I promise you, I understand how bad the Tennessee Titans roster is. I understand how bad it is relative to last year's roster. I understand how bad it is relative to the last 4 years. I've been here for 10. I promise you I get it. So I don't want to provide unfair criticism or say, well, tough shit, like your job is to make it work. At the end of the day, I could take that approach, but that's not really how I feel about it. But I do feel that I have higher standards for him than Tyler Shough or Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel or Jackson Dart, because the difference between those guys and Cam Ward is Cam Ward's the number 1 overall draft pick. That doesn't necessarily mean that he can't be negatively impacted by his surroundings. It does mean, though, it comes with a greater level of responsibility, whether you want to place that on him or a level of pressure. You don't have to place that on him as fans. I do think it's okay for us to approach that, or at least me specifically. Everybody else can analyze Cam Ward how they want to, but I think it's okay for me to have higher standards for him. And I do. I want to see more out of the number 1 overall pick. Relative to his draft pedigree, I have not been overwhelmingly impressed this year. Doesn't mean I think he's going to be a bad player. Doesn't mean I think he's a bust. It just means that I'm left, having seen Tyler Shough in a couple of games now, having seen Shedeur Sanders in person for his best performance of the season by far in a small sample size, having seen all Cam Ward, 14 starts that he's made, and seen a little bit of Dillon Gabriel and enough of Jackson Dart to feel that I'm comfortable making an assessment of all 5, at least in some capacity, all 5 starting quarterbacks, even if I've seen far more of one than the others. Shedeur Sanders individually has had the best individual performance of any of the 5 rookie quarterbacks. He did that last week against the Titans. Now, he didn't do shit this week. He didn't really do shit the week prior against the San Francisco 49ers. Doesn't mean that he's better or worse than Cam necessarily, but he, of the 5 of them, has had the best individual performance in an NFL game. Shough has had the more surprising performances. I think that Tyler Shough looks like a viable replacement level starting NFL quarterback. I have a different standard for Tyler Shough because he's a 2nd round pick. I have a different standard for Shedeur Sanders because he's a 5th round pick. I hold Cam Ward to the highest standard of any of them because he is drafted or was drafted to be the franchise quarterback definitively for an organization. And I have not seen him be overwhelmingly special or great in any 4-quarter sample size. I've seen him do enough in a winning performance in Cleveland. I've seen him make plays in the 4th quarter in Arizona, and I've seen him make mistakes that are normal for a rookie quarterback. I'm not convinced of the sample size that, clearly and obviously, that's the guy no matter what. I think it's okay to have a healthy bit of skepticism. I can tell you that I didn't do that with Marcus Mariota, and frankly, I regretted it. So it's something where I promise you, I don't criticize Cam Ward overly harshly or unnecessarily, because I think that any criticism of him has to come with the context of his circumstance. But it is okay for me to say, at the end of the day, I don't know how much I have objectively seen him elevate things around here when they've struggled as badly as they do. But It's because, in some part, context matters, remember. The context of they haven't been able to run the ball really with any kind of effectiveness all year long until the last couple of weeks. And so they have been such a one-dimensional team that so much has been placed at the feet of Cam Ward to where he's never going to be in a successful position that way. So the Two Rivers Ford take that I'd like to ask you, it's a long windup. It's a 10-minute windup for what I'm trying to get to here. But I really think that we're at least seeing some kind of a shift that is allowing Cam Ward to be a better version of himself while still allowing for some imperfections in his rookie season. So the question that I would ask you is this: what about the Titans offense has improved most from your perspective from Brian Callahan, so the first 6 weeks of the season, to Mike McCoy, which has now been the last 8 weeks because we had a bye, so it would have been 9, but we don't count the bye. So the last 8 weeks of McCoy versus 6 weeks of Callahan. Where do you see substantial improvement, consequential improvement that is allowing these things to be better? We will talk about this together throughout the course of the show. It's your Two Rivers Ford take. As always, it's made possible by the South's most trusted Ford dealer. That's Two Rivers Ford, where they remind you about their holiday year-end sales event. Go out to Two Rivers Ford, get the best pricing, the best financing on a vehicle that makes sense for your family's budget and for your family's needs. Two Rivers Ford is going to take care of you that way. They always go above and beyond to make those things possible. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. So where are you seeing, where can you, or do you think you're seeing, whether you have numbers to back this up or not? I do have numbers to back up what I think is a meaningful shift in the right direction. And we can talk about these things together. But where do you think that you've seen this? Vanessa says, Buck, please stop doing drugs. Well, no. Maybe not the drugs that you're alleging, but no, not outright, of course not. Says his wide receivers suck. His running backs suck. His coaches suck. The fans suck. Okay, that's your perspective. And she says the press sucks, talking about us. So you are entitled to your opinion. His wide receivers are bad. I understand that. Jeff Simmons looks like the most natural wide receiver of anybody we've seen catch a pass from Cam Ward this year, and he's a defensive tackle. I don't think his running backs suck. I think that in a better circumstance, with better work up front and a better play calling situation, I think the running backs are okay. Like, I don't think that Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears are an outright bad situation. I think the offensive line has underperformed. You didn't mention that. And I think that they have been, in the last 2 weeks, you couldn't say that Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears suck. The running backs have actually been doing a lot of really good work here. Tony averaged, 7.4 yards per carry yesterday? The coaches, his coach got fired, and the coaching staff has not covered themselves in glory by any stretch of the imagination. I do think that under McCoy, it's a lot of the same coaches, obviously, everybody but Bill, Brian Callahan's father. I think that there are some changes that you are seeing a more balanced offense, even if it's taken some time to move in that direction. Now, your perspective on the fans, I couldn't speak to. Your perspective on us as media, press sucks. Sure. Whatever. You're allowed to think about us whatever you want to think. I will not begrudge you if you like us or if you don't like us, if you think we're doing a good job or think we're doing a bad job. Your opinion is fine. But as I look at this, the rushing game, the rushing attack generally has looked more successful, more effective, and more simplistic than it was under Brian Callahan. They are also not shying away from their rushing game as much as they were earlier in the season. So just a couple of numbers on the last 2 weeks. And I'll tell you why specifically I pulled a sample size of the last 2 weeks versus the 8 games that Mike McCoy has been the interim head coach, because there is something that's different here in these last couple of weeks. So as I look at the rushing attack, Bill Callahan was the offensive line coach. He was also the de facto run game coordinator. So Bill Callahan heavily involved in the calling of run plays. Bill Callahan leaves, their rushing attack takes a dip as they're trying to figure out all the parts and pieces. So they have 2 assistant offensive line coaches who fill in for Bill Callahan, and Luke Stocker, who is the tight ends coach, and who is also assisting in the coordination of the run game. So these three guys, they're trying to figure out after Bill Callahan quits when his son gets fired. We understand this. Now, Luke Stocker, based on my understanding, has taken a significantly higher or greater level of responsibility in his contributions to the calling of the run game. Not saying that he is calling the running plays, but that he has become the dominant or primary voice in the room, the primary person of those three to help put together the rushing plan and the rushing attack. So since Luke Stocker in these last 2 weeks has taken that lead role, the Titans have had their two of their best rushing performances of the year, technically by numbers. Indianapolis at Indy a couple of months ago, or I guess that was the start of November. It was late October, early November. I can't remember exactly. But they're statistically, by counting stats, those are their three best rushing performances of the season. Cleveland last week, San Francisco. So it's Cleveland 1, Indy 2, yesterday 3. In these 2 weeks in particular, where Luke Stocker has taken over, they had 35 total runs, right? They came out specifically with a plan to mitigate Myles Garrett, and they were going to volume run the football. 35 total runs, 14 of which were considered successful. So a 40% success rate, which is slightly above their season average. They were they were, for a good chunk of the season, for the vast majority of the season, the least efficient rushing attack in football. These last couple of weeks, this past month, has helped boost their percentage of successful runs because they are finding more ways to make it easier on Tony Pollard, to make it easier on the offensive line. So a 40% success rate against the Browns. Yesterday, they had a success rate of 75%. Now, we understand that the games are different. Did the Titans lead the Browns the entire way through? I don't think so, but they led for a majority of the game. I can't remember if they led. I don't think they led the entire way through. I need to refresh my memory. But they were in control of the game. It allowed them to run the football more regularly. Also, Corey Levin being in there seemed to be a beneficial presence in the run game. But their success rate was not as high because they just had more rushing plays, right? 35 2 weeks ago to 20 yesterday. They had a higher percentage of successful runs. 15 out of 20 runs were considered successful yesterday. Obviously, they have the DK 7-yard loss. They have a couple of times where Tony Pollard is not successful in that game. And they have a couple of Cam Ward scrambles that don't really contribute too much, but that's kind of where they are at this point in time. That is a huge boost to Cam Ward. It's allowing him to be a better version of himself while also allowing him to be a little less perfect than he might otherwise have to be, or taking some pressure off him, which is what they're trying to accomplish all season long. So their last two outings as a rushing attack, with Luke Stocker helping, kind of guiding the ship there as the tight ends coach, has seen a significant bump in that success rate. You're going to hear from Ben Jones on why that's the case, because Ben and Luke were obviously teammates. They keep in communication. Ben is one of our, 3 former Titans players, weekly analyzing the game. Occasionally we'll ask Blaine to come on and talk to other former Titans players about things that are happening. Bullock will come in from time to time. But those 3, Ben Jones, Nate Washington, and Brett Kern, have been helping us out all season long. I'm very grateful to them. I think they've made the show a lot smarter, where the rest of the show would just be, as Brown and Casey says today, us talking about Lucas's stomach noises, because him and Robert ate chitlins at 9 a.m. It's disgusting. By the way, we have a very funny clip that we'll put out to that effect on social media here in just probably tomorrow morning, honestly, because it was disgusting. Either way, so Ben helping us break down the way that they're approaching the rushing game right now. We'll get to that here in just a second, right after I remind you the Primetime Show is made possible by the Tennessee Department of Transportation and the movement to be a part of the solution to end littering. NobodyTrashesTennessee.com is where you go. Great volunteer opportunities, great community cleanup opportunities. I know maybe your idea of a fun family outing is not necessarily volunteering to pick up trash, but I do think It's at least I enjoy stuff like that. Maybe you don't. Again, I'm doing it individually. If I had kids, it was like, hey kids, let's go pick up trash along the Cumberland River today. Maybe that's not received with as much enthusiasm, but I do think there's all kind of great opportunities for you to participate if that's something that matters to you. It should matter to you because it's being a part of this community. Be a part of the solution to end littering at nobodytrashestn.com. All right, Ben Jones today on the radio show, helping us understand Luke Stocker's presence in the run game.
Start with what you're seeing up front from them. Do you feel that this is sustainable because they're doing it now with mixed and matched pieces and parts? Is this more about what the players are doing or about what they're being set up to do in the scheme from your perspective?
I think it's a little both. I think the scheme is simplified. They're not running a million different things, million different pulls. But I know that was like Callahan's thing. Like, hey, I'm never going to run the same play twice. Like, he's going to give you a million formations, a million different run schemes, and it's hard to get a feel for. As an offensive lineman, I kind of want to run. I want to know how they're going to play a certain thing so we can come back to them like, hey, the backers are going to fit my block this way. So you can correct it, but if you only run it once, it's hard to make those corrections in the game because everyone's like a new play, and it's hard to marry the play action off of that. So I like what they're doing right now. The tight ends, like they're getting the playmakers the ball. Like Tony's your guy. You're giving him the rock. Tajay's making some plays out the backfield. If you're throwing it to him, run it. And your two tight ends have been hit, cam safety net. Like they're dumping it to him, getting rid of it, so he doesn't have to sit back there and hold the ball. They're doing that very well right now. And I think it's definitely you can build on this. And that's what I was like. People are saying, like, hey, who's calling the run? Is it Luke Stocker now? Is it the O-line coach? Is it Hart? Like, has it been a change? Because it looks different in the last 2 weeks. And whoever's doing it, they need to get credit. They're doing a great job with it. And the offense is actually flowing. Cam looks better when you can run the ball. He takes pressure off of him. And that's what you want as a rookie quarterback. You want to have a good O-line. You want to be able to run the ball. So it sets him up to be more successful.
Stocker is more involved, obviously, in the absence of Bill Callahan. And right. I remember talking to him a couple of weeks ago about this as he's working with two, I guess, interim offensive line coaches who were assistants prior to that. So there is something to the idea that the other thing I want to ask you about is like score separation and how it affects the way that you run the football. Because they were still running the football late in the game yesterday, and obviously the cost of that is how much time bleeds off the clock in that situation. But I don't know, Ben, like with you guys, and Derek is obviously a different situation. Like Derrick Henry is going to be a part of your 2 minute, your 4 minute, whatever, right, because Derek's your most effective playmaker in that situation at the time. But where they were running the football late, I think there was some criticisms, and you know, it's easy to criticize after the fact about that they were still leaning on the run game. I almost like the fact that they weren't abandoning the run game in that 100%. Situation.
Yes, you want to be able to run the ball at all times. Look at the Bills. They didn't get away from it. They're down 21-0, and that was kind of the deciding factor for them late in the game. Hey, we stayed in the ball game. We didn't get away from it because you only have so many plays in that 2 minute package. Like if you can sit back and pin your ears back on the D-line and rush the pack and getting all your different coverages, your blitzes, it makes your quarterback's life miserable. Hey, if you have to play for the run, you have to defend the whole field, you're going to be more successful. Their goal is to try to get back in the game. If you only go one-sided and pass every play, unless you have elite receivers, elite quarterback, it's impossible. So you have to be able to run the ball right there. If you want to get back in this game, that's your most explosive plays is running the ball the past couple of weeks. And if you're able to run it, defensive safeties creep up, then you're able to take a shot. If you're only passing the ball, everybody's dropping, you're rushing, it makes it hard to take shots. It makes it hard for the O-line. So you got to be able to stay balanced, honestly.
So that is a portion of our conversation with Ben Jones earlier today. You can hear the full weekly interview with Ben. Ben comes in every Monday in the 11 o'clock hour. MB says, remember when the local media used to complain that Ben Jones wouldn't talk to the media? Well, that's Paul, because Paul, Paul and Ben didn't get along, and Paul would bitch about that, and I would just stop asking Ben questions after a while because I knew that Ben was doing that on purpose. And Ben and I have always had a good relationship, even as I understand he was absolutely useless to me as a locker room quote. But that wasn't his job. His job was to go out there and block for Derrick Henry and to protect Ryan Tannehill and Marcus Mariota. And, a part of Ben's job as a player was not to give me an interesting quote. That was Lawan's job. So PK is allowed to complain about, again, just like you were allowed to have your opinions about whatever you might like. And you might be right, you might be wrong. PK is allowed to have his opinions. Paul was very wrong about that because you just have to deal with Ben differently, I think. And understand that, you're not going to get shit from him in an on the record setting, but Ben is willing to help you if you are, I don't know, not super strident with him, if that makes any sense. So Ben's been doing a really good job with the radio show this year. All three of them have. I really appreciate how much smarter they've helped make us, and hopefully that they're helping with you. MB says he's sure chatty now. Well, he's always been chatty. He's just not chatty in front of a microphone. You know what I'm saying? Like that's, or in front of a microphone in a locker room as an active player. It's different. It's completely different. All right. Ann Hurst says, if you aren't like Paul, well, I don't know. Me and Paul, we probably have some crossover in terms of personality traits. I don't know that. I wouldn't say that we are alike necessarily, but I wouldn't say that I'm easy to deal with either. Just trying to be self-aware about this situation. So anyway, as we look at that, I think that's the place where you're most encouraged. I think that, Luke Stocker is, when you talk about coaching changes and what's coming up, I think Luke Stocker deserves some consideration. Denard Wilson, John Fossil. There are different coaches on the staff. Tyke Tolbert. You don't have to completely reset the board to zero just because this staff has been unsuccessful with a bad head coaching situation, a bad roster situation. I think there are some coaches here who the next staff should give heavy consideration to keeping because they are doing some good things here. And you don't want to completely have to pull the rug out from under Cam if you can help it. Though, it might happen just because a new coach might want their own people. And that happens far too often throughout the course of this. Rob Neal says, would you rather have a good player that doesn't talk to the media than a mid player that says too much? No, I need both. I need good players that don't want to deal with us. I need role players who are comfortable talking to us. I need star players who want to engage. I need star players who couldn't give a shit. I need all kinds in the locker room. But yeah, if you're talking to me during the season and a season like this that's miserable and the football doesn't actually matter, then yeah, I'd rather have a mid player that says too much. Just to give me something to do. You know what I'm saying? Like Jeff's a good balance. Jeff is comfortable, engaging with us. He's not going to give us too much necessarily. And he's obviously the best player on the football team. So we've got a good situation with Jeff and Skoronski. I think they're both very helpful. More often than not. And you've got your guys that you go to in other situations. You've got guys who will talk to you off the record to help you, as opposed to putting a camera phone and a microphone in front of your face in the locker room and asking them questions. So you find ways, if you can create good relationships in the locker room, you can find ways to have the locker room help you at least understand. Now, on certain days they're not going to want to talk to you, and we get that. But I think that's one of those things that you just have to, it's like any workplace environment. There are different dynamics with everybody in that office space, in that work setting. In our case, it's a football locker room and with a media corps. Curtis says, like all of their segments talking about the former Titans players, he said the only guest I dislike is Jason Fitz's hating ass. Fitzy's very comfortable having strong opinions, which I appreciate. I don't think that Fitz hates unnecessarily. I just think that Fitz doesn't give a shit about anybody's, fandom or anything like that. He's also a Raiders fan, so he's in hell at this point in time. Esco says Buck turns into Paul when he is tired of BS answers from the coaches. I wouldn't say that I go really hard in press conferences, right? Because it's not our job to yell at them about the job that they're doing. It's our job to ask them a question, for them to respond. If the answer is not sufficient, then you can follow up and press. The only time I've really gone hard in a press conference was that Chad Brinker, Mike Borgonzi, Brian Callahan's fired press conference, just because I don't know. have a fine relationship with Chad Brinker. I just thought a lot of the shit in there about, where is Amy? Oh, she's at home. I'm responsible for answering for her. Okay, well, you've been here for 3 unsuccessful hires and fires. Why should people trust you? Like I wouldn't say that I go overwhelmingly hard in press conferences that way, but that, when questions, when you don't feel like you're being shot straight on stuff, that's the time when you kind of you bristle a little bit. And you're like, all right, fine. You want to turn this into something that it doesn't need to be, then we can do that too. Paul, every press conference is like that for Paul, which I love him for. It's just, sometimes it's unnecessary, just for the purposes of getting answers from these guys, right? Anyway, so who you got tonight between the Steelers and the Dolphins? Who would you pick in this particular game? Monday Night Football kicks off in 2 minutes. We'll get your perspective on that right after I remind you that True Math Fitness is in the Gulch for your best workout, your favorite workout. The best workout in Middle Tennessee is True Math Fitness, and they will even offer you your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. Get your beach body started today at TrueMathFitness.com. All right, so I am looking at the 6-7 Dolphins versus the 7-6 Pittsburgh Steelers. They're in Pittsburgh tonight. Robert informed me that the Dolphins have been practicing in Pittsburgh for the better part of the week to prepare for the elements. Apparently, the real feel is somewhere between 17 and 15 tonight at this point in time. Not a great circumstance if you're coming from Miami, where that weather does not ever dip that low. Steelers are obviously favored at home tonight. Miami is a friskier team on both defense and in their rushing attack than I think most people realize if you haven't been watching the Dolphins on a frequent basis. So who are you picking tonight? Eric Davis says Steelers. Ann Hirsch says stock down, TJ Watt's collapsed lung. I've seen. Dolphins for Ghost. Is it Ghost for Life or Ghost O for Life? Either way. It says the Dolphins will win tonight. That would be a surprise. I'm going to take the Steelers. Steelers are 3-point favorites at home. I would take the Steelers in a close game. I think a Steelers victory by a field goal feels right. I think Miami's good enough to keep it close. I don't think the Steelers are that impressive, but we will see. Miami could pull off the upset, get to 500, and make this a much more interesting conversation with the AFC wild card moving forward. Esco says, so what would you draft in the first 3 rounds if the draft was January 1st? I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that today. God knows, we've got so much time to talk about the fucking draft. Oh, excuse me. To talk about the damn draft. I don't care about the draft yet. I really don't. I've started Robert got me on this great website called Caddy's Cut-Ups. So I'm starting to watch like actual college player tape in preparation for that, but I don't want to start having draft conversations yet. I simply don't care. I honest to God, I'll tell you right now, I hope you end up picking 8th because I want a more interesting draft conversation this year. I know that doesn't help you. I'm telling you what my rooting interests are. I don't want you to have the first overall pick because I don't want to talk about the same position over and over and over again. I don't want to talk about trade scenarios because there's only so many that you can have. I want you to pick 8th because I want damn near every position to be on the table for you to pick. And I want to have a larger draft conversation this year rather than just talking about, okay, all 6 months of draft coverage, we're going to be talking about offensive line. And all 6 months of draft coverage, we're going to be talking about Cam Ward. I don't want that. I'm bored with that. I don't want to do that anymore. I know that's not what you need. I know that's not productive for your football team. I don't care. I'm telling you right now, I simply don't care about the draft just yet. Tom Miller says, boo, not about you, Buck. Says you. Says you. You don't think if there's a way for me to make it about me that I'm going to make it about me? You're stupid. Or you're displaying the behavior of somebody who's stupid. I know you're not stupid, Tom. I know you're smarter than that because you know how self-involved I am. And the only thing that I want is the thing that's best for me. All right. So moving on. Robert Walsh, in case you missed it, what has Robert brought us today? We'll talk about that together right after I remind you that as you're preparing for your holiday functions, if you've already had some, maybe you didn't dress well enough, maybe you felt embarrassed because you weren't looking your best, or you can look better. Simon says Nashville is there to get you fitted for all of your holiday occasions and all of your work functions, or all of your just going out attire, your dinner attire, whatever the case may be. You could stand to dress better. You could do so with great cost-effective options at SimonsSaysNashville.com. The premier men's clothing spot in Nashville, Tennessee is Simon Says Nashville. I think I'm going to play them a video this weekend.
Thank you. The applause stopped a little earlier. Got a show to do. Thank you for all stopping.
It sound like applause. It sounds like
30 asses clapping at the same time.
what kind of asses are you watching?
The good kind, I guess. I mean, the only kind I can find, I reckon. Bowl games. It's bowl season. 40 bowls in 14 days. It's bowl season, and nobody really gives a shit. Nobody cares. Bowl games are played out. They're so last year, man. Nobody. No, you're shaking your head. Nobody gives a shit about bowl games.
Take it back right now. I was not happy to not have just a full slate of college football on my television this Saturday. That was not fun for me.
Well, it's coming back. I don't disagree with you, but most people are saying, what do you really stand to win? You really don't get anything out of it. So I was thinking about how we could make bowl games cool again. And I saw another fella having this discussion about it. I don't know who the hell he was, but he was a pretty smart guy. He said, what if bowl games were week 1 of the college football season? So your bowl game would be okay, so ECU and Pitt play.
Oh, so your bowl selection would determine your week 1 or week 0 opponent of the next season?
Right, correct. So like ECU and Pitt would play next year in week half, like between 0 and 1, however you wanted to do that. And that way you don't get rid of the sponsors. Everybody still gets to have their bowl game. You still get a neutral site game. And it's still a game. Week 1 games, if you have a loss then, i.e. Alabama or whoever, if they wouldn't have lost to Georgia, they'd have been in. And even though they lost to Florida State, it's a week 1 loss. It means less. And most of the games are scheduled 5 years out in advance. So all the people saying, that's not the same team. That's not the Ohio State and Texas was signed in COVID. And we finally got that game. So I think that would be a cool little swing of how to make bowls cool again. Puka says, is Lucas still alive? Has Chitterlingling burst forth yet? No, Chitterlingling has burst forth from Lucas.
Critter. Chitlin Critter.
Oh, I read it. I read it on the. I read it on the.
Get off the drugs. You get off the drugs.
I read it off the
drugs while we're working.
Yeah, as a chitlin, that's a tongue twister. Has a chitlin critter burst forth yet? No, both our bellies are cast iron, and we are secure with our stomach tude. Look how red you're.
I hope you both get worms. I hope you both get worms from this.
Why is everyone insinuating that we have parasites? Is that a thing? Can you get parasites from chitterlings?
Guess we're gonna find out, bud.
I'm gonna look it up right now. Can you get worms from chitterlings? Oh no. Yes, you can. You can get worms. Parasites like tapeworms or roundworms.
Well, you know what? You're due for your annual vet visit anyway. Anyway, get out of here. Be gone. I hit the wrong button. That's going to do it for us tonight. We appreciate your participation. We will see if we do have Robert Walsh and Lucas Panzica worm-free tomorrow. In any case, we will have Jason Fitz, who many of you adore, it seems, on the radio show. We will look forward to his presence. We will look forward to having you from 10 to 1 with us on 104.5 The Zone. See you later.
He's a hoe, and I want that known. I see